Good morning, everyone. This is a donor management fundamentals session. Welcome, everyone. Has anybody here used NPSP before? Yes, knows a little bit about it. Any nonprofits? You're from the nonprofit, great. My name is Julia, and I am a founder of company called Conseil Uniburo. I'm also a 5-time certified Salesforce professional. I run trails. I love Sherlock Holmes, Iron Man. I'm a mother of 2. And I'm also a user group leader for the Montreal nonprofit user community. So we flew in from Montreal to be here today.
I'm Mitchell. I am the Chief Solution Mastermind at Uniburo. And what that translates to is basically anytime there's a problem, you call me and I'll solve it for you. Also, as my description says, I am a Disney fanatic. You can tell from my Mickey Mouse backpack that I carry around everywhere. So if you see Mickey Mouse, it's probably me going to Disneyland tomorrow, like super excited. This is my first time in Europe, nonetheless Paris. So I'm super excited to be here and this is just awesome.
Great. So just a little bit about what we do. I started the company a few years ago, having a lot of experience. It was a lot of multinational companies and having passion for tech. I saw that there was a gap that the nonprofits and the foundations don't have access to the expertise and the power tools that is available to a lot of large companies. So I said, well, most of the time nonprofits get a lot of pro bono volunteer work, but often it's not good enough. And what we see in our practice every day, volunteers go in and use nonprofits as a guinea pig, so to say, platform. So there's a lot of mess, not always the best practices are applied. So we thought we could do better than that. We could do better and give the expertise and open their eyes into what's possible. So our mission is really to believe that we believe that all organizations, regardless of size and capital, should have access to the best platforms and the best expertise. So today we're going to tell you, share with you a story of a community organization called Share the Worms. It's a community organization in Montreal, and they have a variety of programs that support food security issues. So have food bank. They provide a lot of sandwiches for primary school children who can't afford to bring lunch or to have breakfast before going to school. They also have a lot of programs around youth. So they have tutoring programs. They have music programs. Traditionally, music programs and tutoring is very expensive. So the organization is working to tutor children from underprivileged families and give them the music training, because we know that music is important for development and growth. So we'll talk about them and their specific case scenario and how they use the power of Salesforce to transform their nonprofit. So when they came to us, there was a big problem. They were in a legacy system and their data was chaotic. It was over 40,000 donor records. It was multiple duplicates. It was hard to tell who's a donor and what is the right record, what is the level of donations, lack of insights whatsoever. It was impossible to answer a simple question of who donated last year but not this year, who's our top donors, what are the trends, where should we focus, what are we doing well, what are we not doing well. So a lot of questions that they couldn't obtain, because when the data is a mess, you don't know anything about your organization. But then the bigger problem was the outcome, that the donor engagement was declining. It is harder and harder, as we know, in the nonprofit sector to raise funds. Donors are continuously bombarded with solicitation asks. So being able to engage donors in a meaningful way, each nonprofit struggles with that. So with them, it was very acute and something needed to be done. So what we proposed is, we came in and said Salesforce.org offers a special package. It's called NPSP. And right from the bat, we could address a lot of issues just with a regular config and with the power of the platform. Things like in NPSP, we have automatic naming conventions for all the household for donations. Mitchell will talk about them specifically. NPSP comes with pre-configured nonprofit reports. There's a lot of them. So things like who donated last year and not this year are readily available. And as you know, we can customize the platform even further. But then to take it to the next level and to really drive that donor engagement, we had to take thinking a little bit further and see how we can use the platform to engage those donors. What do we need to reach them out and make that a little bit more personal? And from that, we took a little bit of a research in the industry and used the Salesforce to make it happen. So with that, Mitch.
Thank you. I'll just step in front of the mic. So a lot of the problems, like a lot of them could be solved pretty quickly just with some simple configuration. And so for those who actually dealt with MPSP before, you guys should know about the MPSP settings. It is like the heaven for MPSP users. And so easily to get there. You just got to launch your app launcher, start typing in MPSP settings, you'll get there, and then you're greeted with this beautiful list of all these different things you can do with it. And so to start, what we did is we went straight into the household naming conventions. And by default, when Salesforce creates a household account for a contact, the default is last name, household. So mine would be the Swales household, which is great when you have a weird name like Swales. Well, it's weird in Canada. I guess it's probably more common here. But when you have a bunch of them, like we have a lot of White, Duponts, Smiths, when you get a bunch of them, you start to add up and you're like, why do I have 17 different Smith households? So what we do is we swapped out the last name for first name and last name. So now you get at least a little bit of differentiation between accounts. And this way you don't actually need to click in to the record details to see who's doing what. So the same concept can be applied to the opportunity naming conventions. And so in the MPSP settings, you can automatically name the opportunity records. And there's like a whole bunch of different things you could do. You could list them by record type, whether it's a contact who made the opportunity, or whether it's an organization that made the opportunity. And you can go crazy about how you want to customize it. So what we did for them, we just went with contact organization, have basically all the same names, and this way you get all the important information such as like the close date, the amount, the campaign. We have even recurring donations, so you get the installment number, and all this information is available right in the name, so you don't even need to click in the opportunity to see what's actually going on. And so this is super important for just for time that you're saving, and then reporting and searchability also. Now let's talk about roll-ups. Roll-ups are really fun, and for those who know MPSP, you'll be very familiar with all the roll-ups. There's like total gifts last year, total gifts in general, the number of gifts, the first gift, the best year that they give the most gifts, and all these things. So these are all controlled through the MPSP settings, and we use them a lot, and we actually made a new one for them called the average gift last year, because that one's not a pre-configured one, even though there are 87 pre-configured roll-ups that you can play around with. So there's a lot. So we just added another one there. And also, if you want to add some filters, so you can actually filter out certain record types for opportunities. And so that's what we did. We made a new record type for them called services. And this is for anything that's basically doesn't get a chattable receipt. We didn't want those to calculate through their gifts. When people making donations, so you don't want, what they've bought to be included in that. And so we went ahead and added a new filter just to filter those out from those roll-ups. And here's just a little handful of the 87 pre-configured roll-ups that you have access to through the MPSP settings. So also in here, you can update everything in mass, which is awesome, especially when you're changing naming conventions for things. So every time we made a household name change or a opportunity name change, you can update them all in bulk with a click of a button instead of having to go into every single record and click the refresh name action, which saves you a bunch of time. Just keep in mind these are irreversible, but if you're going to go through them individually, it's kind of a given. Also in here, you're able to update your roll-ups and your level assignments if you're using those with a click of a button. These do happen overnight, however, but if you're in a pickle and you really need to refresh those things, those are here. So that's what we do every time we added that filter, and they're like, hey, this person has like a total gifts of 8,000, but they only actually donated 1,000. Click that button, everything gets refreshed instantly. Okay, so now what? Now we basically covered most of their issues. We got rid of all that chaotic data by just changing the way things are named. We added some roll-ups so we can actually get some data to use for our reports. Okay, but now what? What do we do? Well, there's two paths we can take. I want to talk about the quick and easy path because I'm lazy. Let's talk about this. This is a one-list donor approach is what we like to call it, and that means you treat all your donors the same. Is that a good thing? Is it a bad thing? We'll see soon. You're throwing the ball in the donor's court. You're making them do all the work. And the result of this, well, it's easy, it's quick, you can relax, you can enjoy your day, take an extra 15 minutes, enjoy Paris. So what does this look like? So what I did, I made a quick campaign. I threw in all my donors into this campaign, and then I wrote up a quick email saying, "Hi donors, this is Share the Warmth here. We do a lot of stuff with kids, with some food. If you want to donate anywhere between $25, $100. Links right over here. Click on that. And so this is the email you will receive if you were on that list. It's okay. I mean, nothing special. It works. Sometimes people will click it, others will go delete. Others will maybe click it and not donate. Some will donate. But I think this can be a lot better, and I think we could all agree that this can be better. It can be a little bit more personalized, and this is a good way to segue to Julia's part, where she will talk about how we can make this a lot better.
Thanks, Mitch. So, the other way. So what we know from the study, and I guess even in the business, right, when we trying to interact with our customers, we need to segment. We need to make sure that we can relate to our donors. And what we say that, with great power of Salesforce comes great responsibility of being strategic and treating each donor, or at least pretending that you know each donor, is super important in engagement and making appeal to the cause that is important to them. So what does it mean? So for Share the Worms, we know that there are some donors that are more interested in a food security appeal. This is their causes that they support, and this is what close to their heart. So we need to talk to that in order to have them engaged. Other people more interested and want to support youth causes. So they're probably not going to relate anything or we have food security or less relatable to them. So how can we separate those messages and talk to the donors only about the issues that are interesting for them? On top of that, support levels is so important. We can't throw all the donors in the same bucket. If I'm a person who donates $5 or $10 a year, this is my support level. So when you're asking me for more, it makes me feel uncomfortable because I'm not there. On the other hand, if I'm a donor who gives thousands of dollars, why are you asking me for $20? You're missing out, right? So how do we take that and put it into a format that we can really make it personal? So how can we be more relevant and make donors understand that we know them, we understand them, we want to speak in a language that is relevant to them? Very simply, actually. So, first of all, having a primary appeal for the donor on each record is super important, and the organization already collect that data, right? And if they don't, every organization should be collecting the data about the primary appeal for a specific donor. So when you communicate with me and I'm interested in food security, you don't talk to me about the kids. If I am, children and youth, something that's relevant to me, when you introduce in some other aspects, it's just I'm losing my attention, I'm no longer focused, right? So having a primary donor appeal, super important in the donor record. On top of that, NPSP comes with those customizable roll-ups that have all the data, and sometimes even too much data about the support level of our donors. So how can we leverage that in order to make it relevant and be relevant? Well, we use the donation totals in order to kind of frame that. More specifically, we actually extended a little further, and Mitchell talked about that we introduced a new roll-up that's called average gift last year. So we want to know how much you've given us last year. And then in our ask amount, we're going to customize that for each donor. Super easy with Salesforce, right? So thinking strategically, we want each donor not to move down, right? So if you've given a certain amount, we want a minimum for you to stay in that bracket. Or even better, I'm like, how can we move you to the next level? And we can't move you directly from 1 to 100, but maybe we can move you incrementally. So maybe first ask amount would be to stay on the status quo. Second ask amount will be, hey, how about you give us 50% more? And maybe I got a big bonus that year and I want to be double generous. How about we suggest you how much you should give us on the higher level. So making each donor ask amount relevant is incredibly important because we see it every day. If I got an email from Mitchell that asked me for $20 and I am a donor who gives, thousands, I will give you $20, $100. So you're missing out on a lot of money, not understanding where I stand as a donor. Whereas if I'm a volunteer and I only maybe give $5 a year, and you're asking me for 100, I'm like, whoa, like this is way too much. I am not, I'm probably gonna be embarrassing myself if I only give $5. So all of a sudden, I'm not gonna give even $5, right? So making it relevant for each donor with thousands of donor records is possible with a simple formula and a rollout field. And that's what we do. But then next, we don't end there. We need to make sure we are relatable. So that one blast of emails that I actually get them every day because I'm a donor as well, where people just write me a story that have nothing to do with me or my interests or my causes. I just throw it in the trash because somebody talks to me about some other causes, beautiful causes, but maybe they don't talk to me as much. So what we do at Share the Words, we customize the solicitation and ask for each donor interest. So donors who are interested in food security will you will receive a letter, stories about how their specific impact is and support translates to the impact in the community related to the food security. And the donors with the youth appeal will have a completely different story with their customized amounts. So, personalizing, because we can on Salesforce, is pretty, takes maybe additional work, but it's very doable. So what does it look in the real time? We get here's just gonna flip back to the email that we actually send. So we customize email. So this is me, a donor who interested in the food security issues. We'll write a story about how, for example, Share the Word helped immigrant families to eat better in Montreal. And then I have my customized amounts. You know how much I donated last year. So when I'm feeling like how much I'm gonna donate, I'm gonna click on a link and it brings me directly to a form that is already pre-populated with all my information, my ask amount in here. Because what we notice, we lose a lot of donors the moment they click on the donate page because they have to enter their name again and they forgot how much they should donate. So how about we take it a step further and take that work out of them and don't lose them on the shopping cart step, right? Because the only thing I have to do here is really whip out my credit card, enter it, and process it. So we don't lose them on the stage of actually donating. And that's also a research that we see a lot of people, click on the form and then they start filling out and then we lose them. So let's take that out of their workflow. If I'm somebody who is, on the other hand, is interested in, in the youth causes, I will get a different email with a different story with my customizable amounts. And again, it gets to the same process. The form is pre-populated, pop in your credit card number, and it's easy. The conversion rate with that is almost like 8 times higher than with a regular workflow where you have to enter your information. So that's one way. And obviously, all this could be done through, the email platform that people have to make it even more appealing. But on that note, actually, we see that donors delete the emails that come from the MailChimp campaigns and things like that because they think it's a marketing material. So instead, we send emails as if we're talking to each donor and not a beautifully crafted campaign because then they also feel disengaged. So putting it all together, instead of using one campaign, we usually have parent campaigns, and we have child campaigns that will have each appeal of a donor, and we may have VIP campaigns, 0 people campaigns, that we just try to start them. Volunteers often give their time, but not necessarily donate. So it was an objective of how do we bring volunteers to the first stage of donation, maybe ask even for $5, right? So we usually would have, parent campaign and child campaigns that will roll up to the parent campaign. We use a simple report on contacts, filter on a donor appeal, boom, adding them to the campaign, and then sending the campaign from the send list email button, really, really quick and very easy after all the workers of thinking process is done. And what do we see with that? Well, we see it's incredible. We see that minimum increase of funds raised by 15%. One is because they don't have to fill in that form anymore because it's already filled in. And 2 is because they engage. They feel that we actually know what they care about and we understand their support level and where they can get. So that's substantial. And then we take it even a step further. The more segmentations and brackets you can have within your donor base, the higher the ROI is on that work, because usually we actually completely take out the donors who donated over, let's say, 5,000 amounts, and we don't send them any solicitation. We actually call them, we invite them for breakfast. So different strategies for different donor segments is super important. And with Salesforce, we can do that. It's very simple. Using the power of the platform to really translate those data metrics to strategies has been very powerful and impactful for the nonprofits. And that's it. So making it personal, really worth it, really worth it in terms of hard dollars. Thank you very much. And any questions? We're here to answer. Questions? Merci. Thanks a lot. Yes?
What do you do to manage, for instance, I am a donor, and sometimes I'm donating my personal money, and sometimes I'm donating from my company.
Yes. A very good question. Well, in NPSP, actually, the account model is a little different. There's 2 types of accounts. There's a household account, and there is an organizational record type account. So there's 2 types. So you, as a contact, will actually have your household account, and you will be affiliated to your organization. So when you make a personal donation, your opportunity record will say that the account on that opportunity is your household account, and you're the primary contact. And when you donate on behalf of your organization, it is your organization who will be the account on the opportunity. And you will be still a primary contact, but not necessarily getting charitable receipt. But an NPSP is pretty cool. You still get a soft credit for your donations, because we see it a lot. You will have people maybe not necessarily donating privately from their own budgets, but they're the one who are stewarding and helping their companies to donate. So we need to recognize them as people who influence the support. So in NPSP, it's pre-configured, so ready to roll. Something is called soft credit. So it's ready and available. So you'll be recognized for both. Yeah.
Anyone else?
Thank you, guys.
Thanks a lot. Thank you.